Struggle reveals strength in ways that comfort never can. When life is smooth and predictable, we rarely question ourselves, we rarely stretch, and we rarely grow. It's in the moments when everything feels uncertain, when doors close, when people doubt us, that something powerful begins to awaken within. Struggle becomes a teacher, one that doesn't just show us what we can do, but who we truly are underneath the surface of ease. It strips away pride, fear, and illusion, leaving behind only the raw material of resilience. Strength isn't inherited or given. It's shaped in the quiet hours of endurance, in the moments when we choose to rise one more time after being knocked down again. When you face struggle, the natural instinct is to avoid it, to look for a way around it, but it's in walking through it that transformation happens. Every setback carries within it the potential to stretch your capacity. When everything is taken from you, comfort, certainty, approval, you discover a deeper kind of strength that can't be measured or taken away. You learn that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to keep moving despite it. You learn that pain isn't a punishment, but a passageway toward growth. The challenges that seem designed to break you often become the very experiences that build your foundation. When life tests you, it doesn't just test your ability to endure hardship. It tests your commitment to your purpose. It asks, how much do you believe in what you say you want? And in that testing, you either give up or grow up. Growth rarely feels good in the moment. It's uncomfortable, uncertain, and often lonely. But it produces something lasting. You come out stronger not because the struggle disappears, but because you learn to stand even when it doesn't. You learn to breathe in the chaos, to find calm in confusion, and to trust yourself in the middle of uncertainty. That's when you realize strength isn't about control. It's about endurance. Each person who has ever achieved something meaningful has faced moments when the world told them no. The difference between those who stop and those who rise, how they interpret that no to one person. It's rejection, to another, it's redirection. Struggle doesn't say you can't. It says, prove that you can. It becomes the silent companion that walks beside you, shaping your vision, humbling your pride, and deepening your empathy. Because once you've walked through your own darkness, you begin to understand the pain of others. Struggle softens you even as it strengthens you. It builds compassion alongside courage. There's a hidden blessing in difficulty. It forces you to meet the parts of yourself you didn't know existed. When you are pushed beyond your limits, you start to see new possibilities within. You realize that the voice inside that says, I can't, was never telling the truth. The truth is, you can endure more than you think. You can rise faster than you expect. And you can rebuild even after everything falls apart. Every scar becomes a reminder of what you've survived, not what you've lost. The struggle refines you the way fire refines gold. It burns away what's unnecessary so the core of your character can shine. In the middle of the storm, strength doesn't shout. It whispers. It's in the small decisions, choosing to try again, to forgive, to stay patient, to keep believing when the outcome is unclear. Struggle reveals strength not in one dramatic moment of victory, but through quiet persistence. It's built one choice at a time, one day at a time. And even when you feel weak, the very act of continuing proves you are stronger than you realize. Struggle isn't the opposite of strength, it's the birthplace of it. Believing in yourself when others don't is one of the hardest but most defining acts of courage a person can make. The world has a way of measuring you by your appearance, your background, your mistakes, or your circumstances. People form opinions before they know your story, and sometimes those opinions echo so loudly that they begin to drown out your own inner voice. But belief in yourself isn't about arrogance or denial. It's about quiet conviction. It's the steady voice inside that says, I am capable, even when everything outside of you suggests otherwise. When others doubt you, your belief must become your anchor, because if you don't hold faith in your own potential, no one else will do it for you. There will be moments in life when support is scarce and validation is absent. You'll look around and find that no one seems to understand your vision, your purpose, or the dreams that keep you awake at night. In those moments, believing in yourself isn't easy. It feels lonely and heavy, but that loneliness is where strength is born. It's where you learn to walk without applause, to trust your instincts without constant reassurance, and to pursue your calling without needing permission. The people who eventually inspire the world are often the same ones who once stood alone, misunderstood, and underestimated. What sets them apart is that they refuse to let disbelief, whether from others or within themselves, define their limits. Self-belief is not about thinking you're better than others. It's about recognizing that you have something valuable to offer, even if others can't see it yet. It's a deep understanding that your worth is not up for negotiation. The opinions of others can change with the wind, but the truth of who you are remains constant. When you learn to see yourself not through the eyes of judgment, but through the lens of purpose, everything begins to shift. You start to move differently, think differently, and act with quiet determination. The very doubts that once tried to cage you become the fuel that propels you forward. There will always be people who project their fears onto you, who tell you what can't be done because they couldn't do it themselves. They will say your dreams are too big, your goals too unrealistic, or your ideas too ambitious. But their disbelief has nothing to do with your ability and everything to do with their own limitations. The key is to listen without absorbing. You can hear their concerns, but don't let their fear become your truth. When you hold fast to your belief in yourself, you begin to build an inner foundation that no criticism can shake. You no longer need validation because you're grounded in vision. Self-belief is tested most when failure comes, when you give your best and still fall short, when plans collapse, and when progress feels invisible. It's in those moments that doubt whispers loudest, asking if your effort is even worth it. But belief is not about never falling. It's about refusing to stay down. Every failure holds a lesson that strengthens your resolve. Every setback is a test to see if your belief was conditional or genuine. When you continue to move forward despite disappointment, you prove to yourself that your faith is stronger than your fear. Sometimes the people around you won't recognize your potential until your results make them. But by then, your belief will already have carried you far beyond their expectations. When you hold on to self-belief through struggle and solitude, you cultivate a power that no one can take from you. You become your own motivator, your own source of encouragement, and your own measure of success. Believing in yourself is not a single decision, it's a daily commitment to rise above doubt, to silence fear, and to trust that the vision in your heart is real, even if no one else can see it yet. Purpose is often born from pain, and it rarely arrives in moments of ease or celebration. It comes through struggle, heartbreak, and loss. When life forces you to look deeper than surface success or temporary comfort. Pain has a way of stripping away distractions and illusions, leaving only what truly matters. It makes you ask questions you might never have asked otherwise. Why am I here? What am I meant to do with what I've experienced? What is the meaning behind everything I've endured? In the quiet that follows pain, when the noise of the world fades and you are left alone with your thoughts, purpose begins to whisper. It doesn't shout or demand attention. It grows slowly, like light breaking through after a long night. When everything is going well, it's easy to move through life without reflection. But when pain enters, it changes the rhythm of everything. It interrupts the ordinary and forces you to stop, to see yourself and the world differently. That discomfort, though unwelcome, becomes a doorway. Pain invites you to transform what hurt you into something that can heal others. It pushes you to find meaning in suffering, to turn wounds into wisdom. Many of the most purposeful people in the world didn't set out to be heroes or leaders. They simply faced something difficult, and in surviving it, they discovered a calling greater than themselves. The very thing that once broke them became the source of their strength. Pain has the power to awaken empathy. When you've known struggle, you understand what it feels like to be unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. That awareness gives your life a new direction. It makes you want to ease the pain of others because you know how heavy it can be. You begin to see that your story, even with all its scars, has value. Every hardship becomes a lesson that can serve someone else. What once made you feel weak becomes the foundation of compassion and purpose. You start to realize that the purpose of pain isn't to destroy you, but to prepare you for something greater. Finding purpose through pain requires courage. It means allowing yourself to feel what you'd rather forget and facing the parts of your story that are uncomfortable. But in doing so, you reclaim your power. You take control of the narrative. Instead of being defined by what happened to you, you define yourself by what you've learned and how you choose to move forward. Pain can either make you bitter or make you better. The difference lies in how you respond to it. When you stop asking, why me? And start asking, What can this teach me? Everything begins to change. The same struggle that once held you back becomes the force that propels you forward. Purpose isn't always clear in the moment of suffering. Sometimes it takes years of reflection before you see how the pieces fit together. You may not understand it while you're in the storm, but with time you begin to see how every challenge shaped you, how every loss carved depth into your character, and how every disappointment redirected you towards something more meaningful. Pain teaches humility, patience, and perspective. It reminds you that life is fragile, that time is precious, and that what truly matters isn't what you have, but who you become. When purpose rises from pain, it's unshakable. It's not built on ego or recognition, but on experience and empathy. You no longer chase success just for yourself. You work for something larger, for people who are still where you once were. That's the gift pain gives you, the ability to see beyond your own story and to turn your suffering into service. You begin to understand that nothing you went through was wasted. Every tear, every setback, every sleepless night was preparing you to stand where you are now, with purpose, strength, and a heart that knows how to heal. Power comes from service, not status. True strength is not measured by titles, authority, or recognition, but by the ability to make a difference in the lives of others. It's easy to confuse power with control, but real power is found in compassion, humility, and the willingness to serve even when no one is watching. The world often teaches that success is about climbing higher, gaining more, and being seen by many. But the greatest leaders are those who bend down to lift others up. They understand that influence without empathy is empty, and leadership without service is hollow. Service gives purpose to power. It transforms ambition into impact and turns personal victory into collective progress. When you serve others, you begin to see the world through a different lens. You start to understand that leadership isn't about being at the top. It's about being responsible for those who look to you for guidance. True leadership requires listening, understanding, and caring. It means putting the needs of others before your own comfort, and sometimes even before your own dreams. This kind of power doesn't demand attention. It earns respect. It's not loud or forceful, but steady and reliable. People are drawn to those who make them feel seen and valued, not to those who simply hold authority. Power that serves is the kind that endures. Service is not weakness, it's the highest form of strength. It takes courage to set aside pride and ego to focus on others. It takes discipline to use your influence to create opportunities instead of advantages. When you serve, you lead with heart, not with fear. You become a light in spaces that feel dark, a voice for those who cannot speak, and a source of hope for those who have lost theirs. That kind of service doesn't just change others, it changes you. It teaches humility, empathy, and gratitude. It reminds you that every privilege carries a responsibility, and that the greatest gift of success is the ability to share it. Many people spend their lives chasing titles only to find that recognition fades and applause is temporary, but service creates a legacy. When you dedicate yourself to improving the lives of others, your impact continues long after the attention ends. The people you help may forget your name, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Power used for self-gain dies quickly, but power used for service multiplies. It spreads through the lives it touches, inspiring others to give, to lead, and to serve in turn. In this way, service becomes a ripple that expands far beyond your reach. Power rooted in service also brings clarity. It helps you stay grounded when success comes and strong when challenges arise. When your motivation is to serve, your focus shifts from competition to contribution. You stop asking, "How can I get ahead?" and start asking, "How can I help others move forward?" That simple change of perspective forms everything. It makes work meaningful and leadership human. You stop chasing validation because your purpose is no longer about being seen. It's about making others visible. You find fulfillment not in being recognized, but in knowing that your actions made a difference. The most powerful people in history were not always the wealthiest or the most famous. They were the ones who used their time, talent, and influence to uplift others. They understood that service is the true expression of greatness. To serve is to love in action. It's to give without expecting, to lead without dominating, and to build something that lasts beyond yourself. When you choose service over status, you don't lose power, you magnify it. You create a kind of influence that inspires, unites, and heals. That is the kind of power the world needs most, the kind that begins not with control but with care. Resilience is what turns obstacles into opportunities, the quiet force that allows you to stand tall when everything around you feels unstable. Life rarely unfolds the way we plan it. There are setbacks, disappointments, and times when even your best effort doesn't seem to be enough. It's in those moments that resilience becomes your most powerful ally. It doesn't mean you never fall. It means you keep getting back up. Resilience isn't about pretending that pain doesn't exist or that challenges don't hurt. It's about refusing to let those challenges define your future. It's the decision to see beyond the obstacle and to believe that even the hardest detour can lead you to something meaningful. Every obstacle carries within it the seed of opportunity, but that seed can only grow in the soil of persistence. When life throws you into difficult circumstances, you have two choices. You can either surrender to the situation or use it as a stepping stone. Resilience transforms hardship into growth by shifting your focus from what went wrong to what can be learned. It teaches you that failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the process that shapes it. Every setback refines your vision and builds your character. The person who emerges after the struggle is not the same as the one who entered it. You become wiser, tougher, and more aware of what truly matters. Resilience begins in the mind long before it shows in your actions. It's the voice inside that says, "This is hard, but it won't last forever." It's the quiet confidence that reminds you storms eventually pass, and every difficult season carries the promise of renewal. The most successful people are not those who never face failure, But those who use adversity as a tool for growth, they don't see obstacles as dead ends, but as opportunities to develop strength and creativity. When one path closes, resilience finds another. It turns rejection into redirection, pain into purpose, and endings into new beginnings. The road may twist and turn, but resilience keeps your eyes on the horizon. Obstacles have a way of testing your commitment to your dreams. They ask, how much do you really want this? It's easy to stay motivated when things are going well, but resilience is born when progress feels slow and the finish line seems far away. Every time you choose persistence over surrender, you strengthen your inner core. You begin to realize that growth often hides behind discomfort. The very experiences that feel like interruptions to your plan may actually be preparing you for something greater. Resilience helps you embrace uncertainty with faith rather than fear, knowing that even when you can't control the outcome, you can always control your response. When you develop resilience, you also develop perspective. You stop seeing failure as something to avoid and start viewing it as feedback. You begin to appreciate the lessons that come with struggle, the patience you gain, the humility you learn, and the empathy you build. Challenges shape your heart as much as they shape your path. They make you more understanding of others, more grateful for progress, and more aware of how far you've come. Resilience is what allows you to keep hope alive even when the results don't come right away. It reminds you that growth happens slowly, that success often hides behind endurance, and that timing cannot be rushed. In the end, resilience is not about strength alone. It's about adaptability. It's about learning to bend without breaking, to adjust without losing direction, and to trust that every setback carries a hidden blessing. Life's obstacles are not meant to stop you. They're meant to teach you how to move differently. Each challenge builds your capacity to handle the next one with more grace and wisdom. Resilience is the bridge between difficulty and destiny, turning every obstacle into an opportunity for transformation. It's not the absence of hardship that defines you, but the persistence with which you rise each time it comes. The struggle is not your enemy, it's your greatest teacher. Every challenge you face carries a lesson hidden within it, waiting to be discovered by those willing to endure and reflect. It's easy to view struggle as something unfair, something meant to hold you back or punish you. But with time you begin to see that struggle shapes you in ways comfort never can. It teaches you resilience, humility, patience, and perspective. It strips away the unnecessary, revealing the strength that lies beneath. The lessons you learn through hardship are the ones that stay with you forever, because they are written into your character, not just your memory. When life becomes difficult, the first instinct is often to ask, why is this happening to me? But as you grow, that question transforms into, what is this trying to teach me? Struggle forces you to stop moving on autopilot and confront yourself. It reveals your fears, your limits, and your deepest insecurities. It brings to light the areas of your life that need attention or change. Every obstacle becomes a mirror, reflecting not what's wrong with the world, but what still needs to grow within you. Through struggle, you gain self-awareness. You start to understand your triggers, your strengths, and your weaknesses. You realize that growth doesn't happen in still waters, it happens in storms. Struggle also teaches gratitude. When you've walked through darkness, you begin to truly appreciate the light. The small blessings you once overlooked suddenly carry weight and meaning. You stop taking peace, love, and stability for granted because you know what it feels like to live without them. Gratitude doesn't come from having a perfect life. It comes from recognizing beauty even in imperfection. The very struggle that once felt unbearable becomes the reason you wake up with a deeper appreciation for life's simplest moments. It reminds you that happiness isn't found in the absence of pain, but in the ability to find meaning despite it. Through struggle, you learn to let go. You realize that not everything can be controlled, and that forcing outcomes often leads to more frustration. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting the process and believing that everything is unfolding as it should. It's an act of faith, a quiet surrender that allows you to move forward without fear. The more you resist struggle, the harder it becomes. But when you embrace it as part of your journey, it loses its power to defeat you. You begin to see that the lessons it carries are not punishments, but preparations for the next stage of your growth. Struggle teaches compassion. Once you've known hardship, it's impossible not to feel empathy for others walking through their own battles. Pain connects us as human beings. It reminds us that no one is immune to life's difficulties. The compassion born from your own experiences becomes a source of healing for others. You become slower to judge, quicker to forgive, and more willing to listen. Your struggle gives you the ability to understand someone else's silence, to see the hidden pain behind their smile, and to offer hope when they've lost their own. In this way, your suffering becomes a bridge, not just to your strength, but to your humanity. The most important lesson struggle teaches is that you are far more capable than you think. It shows you that you can survive heartbreak, failure, and uncertainty and still stand tall. Every time you thought you couldn't go on but you did, every moment you endured when quitting felt easier, built a strength that cannot be taught by comfort. Struggle is the universe's way of refining you, shaping you for the purpose ahead. It doesn't come to destroy but to prepare. When you learn to see it not as an enemy but as a guide, every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow wiser, stronger, and more alive than you were before.